Ariane 6 inaugural launch coverage. Switches over to science and technology. What's your opinion on Ariane? Ellis says it's a good rocket, dude. It's a good rocket. If it's 2005. I don't mind it. Not a bad launch vehicle. It's just a good rocket if it's 2005, that's all.
Discovery,
hey, Apollo. I'm gonna put on a pot of coffee, guys. I'll be right back.
To Europe's spaceport and your front row seat to the launch of Ariane 6.
Le lanceur est juste derrière moi, sur son bâti, et sous la coiffe confortablement installée, les CubeSats et les capsules, prêtes à décoller.
We will introduce you to this unique rocket, and we will take a look behind the scenes and the teams that made this flight possible.
Et nous serons en direct avec vous, ici, au centre de contrôle Jupiter. Je suis Liz Pedersen.
I'm Tina Büchner da Costa.
Je suis Luce Fabregat.
And I'm Katie Haswell, and we're all delighted to bring you the live coverage for the first launch of Ariane 6. Operations running smoothly here at the European Spaceport in Amazonian French Guiana, where we're coming to you live as we prepare to turn the next page in space history. Europe's newest rocket, Ariane 6, is on its newly built pad preparing for its first journey into space. We have a stack of passengers on board from experiments and CubeSats. They're up there in the fairing to re-entry capsules waiting to lift off in half an hour. The countdown on the top right-hand side of your screen there. And over in Mission Control, which is about 15 kilometers from the pad, the nerve center of operations, the teams inside what we call the fishbowl, that protective glass, are going through the final preparations before launch. Right now, the boards are all green. That's a good sign. We are go for launch. I'm in the commentary box here with Tina Büchner da Costa. Tina is a launch systems engineer from the European Space Agency. And in the French commentary box, we've got Lisa Peterson and Luce Fabregat. Tina, it's great to have you with us. You've been helping to design and test the system, so this is a really big day for you.
Absolutely, Katie. I am so thrilled to be here with you today, and I still can't believe that today is really the day we have all been waiting for. My rocket engineer heart is pumping loads of adrenaline in my system right now, and I can tell you that I share this incredible excitement with all my colleagues who have been working so hard to prepare this moment. It is a great honor.
So let me be very clear, guys. You have to have domestic launch capability, right? You know, for all the people that are saying, why are they doing this? It's an expendable vehicle. And I said that from a technology standpoint, yeah, this thing is a little bit behind the curve, right? I mean, that's just the kind of the reality of it. You know, expendable launch vehicles, even like companies like ULA are pursuing partial reuse in some way, shape, or form. This thing is a fully expendable vehicle. Now, whatever, like, that's fine. Like, here's what you got to understand. For continental Europe, right, you don't want to rely on a vehicle that's on another, that's from another continent. they want domestically engineered stuff, which makes perfect sense, right? You want stuff that Europe wants to have its own domestic launch capability. Something that, even though they could save money with Falcon 9, you want to be able to launch your stuff on your rocket. For national security's sake. Like, that's the same reason why Atlas V and Delta IV existed, because we didn't want to rely, ironically, on the Europeans to launch all of our stuff into space. Country wants to retain its launch capability. They want to retain sovereign capability to launch into space, and that's why Ariane 6 exists. It's not that it's a bad vehicle. Technology-wise, it's pretty good, but I think it's a little bit behind the curve because it's fully expendable. But, you know, I don't think the governments really give a frick as long as it can launch stuff into space. You know, there's no incentive for reuse as long as you're trying to, if you're just trying to maintain domestic launch capability, doesn't matter if the vehicle is reusable or expendable. In fact, it favors an expendable vehicle because that means your production base stays online all the time. So that's important to understand. Ariane 6 is kind of a little bit, I'm not going to say it's antiquated, right? It's not, but it's, yeah, expendable launch vehicles in 2024 is kind of weird.
And at the end of this, the upper stage will flip in space.
Does it
and
launch enough to
restart the
justify
Vinci
reuse?
engine
No.
To break and set itself on a collision course with Earth, burning up in our atmosphere and limiting space debris.
May I remind you
Before
of
it touches
SLS?
atmosphere-
I don't think that's the own that you think it is, Ando. SLS is a scientific rocket. This is built for this is a national security rocket. I'm talking about smart cars, and you said, yeah, may I remind you of school buses? Those also go down roads. All right. SLS is not used for national security, and it's not used to retain domestic launch capability either. I'm not understanding the point you're trying to make. Yeah, they need a J right there. They need a J.
You hear my voice vibrating for a reason. It's super exciting, but on the one hand, it somehow feels like a déjà vu, because we have indeed done quite a lot of thorough testing, and we repeat today what we already did several times. We have tested all the systems. And
SLS could fly
tested
national
the
security
engines on the
payloads if they
ground.
were big enough.
But this
SLS
time,
could
when
put
we ignite the boosters, we will have to let the
constellations
go.
of satellites up
And
into
I can
space
tell you
all
the
at once.
concentration and tension among all the teams is quite intense right now.
Well, CubeGem, that's the thing, and that's what you got to understand. I think from a that's why I chose my words very carefully when I said Ariane 6 is a great rocket from a technological standpoint. I said 20 years ago, let's say 10 years ago. Thrust vector control checkouts. Hey, Wiggly Vulcan engine, how are you? Excuse me, I don't care what we were talking about. So what they're doing is they're testing the thrust vector control on the engine that's on the main core stage here. That's the engine attached to the center stack. That is your steering wheel, so to speak. Your thrust vector control basically is what's steering the vehicle. They turn the engine in different directions to steer the rocket in different directions. Anyway, yeah, technologically speaking, Ariane 6 is a little ways behind, but I will tell you this, I don't think the Europeans give a frick. They built the rocket that they needed to build for their national security. You can't fault somebody for that. My only real critique of the whole European space program, if anything, is that they're not doing more. Bienvenue al centre de production de Miro. On the stand here is the motor, is the Vulcan motor.
Here in Les Mureaux, we assemble and test the complete lower liquid propulsion module. When the complete module is assembled, we test it, we control it, and then we can ship it to Kourou.
Yeah, where's your crewed spacecraft? We need a European crewed spacecraft, dude. What I'm trying to say is Europe, get off our
Ariane Group and ESA opted
booster
for a very polyvalent, adaptable design for Ariane 6. no compromise on performance.
There's a truck behind him over there. I've decided that it looks like the one from the Kerbal VAB, and I've also decided that I want it. Yep. Anyway.
Access to space, and this is what we need.
It should have been
we
a thing,
depend
Alexis.
On space every day in our daily life.
My God, he's
From
right.
Navigation to weather forecasts, to connectivity, to agriculture, energy, transport. All of these segments depend on space.
There it is.
That means
Whoop,
satellites
there
that we
it
have to
is.
bring to space,
Whoop,
and that's why
there
we need
it
Ariane 6.
Sorry. 4 month
In the
resub.
conception of the Ariane 6 launch system, ESA has played an important
Yeah, I
role
know,
for
Ando. I
steering
understand
the
the
operational
circumstances.
concept of Ariane 6 in a way that reduces drastically the operational cost. This translates in a number of technical choices: horizontal integration of the central core, disconnection of cryogenic arms at the time of the liftoff, brand new concept, very...
Yeah, and Tari's more. You're telling me that all the collective minds in Europe, the best and the brightest, in 2024, all you can do is engineer a expendable launch vehicle? You're freaking Europe, man. What the heck? That's it? That's it. Biz, yeah, I know. The best of the best migrated to the United States. Shh, shh, shh. Money, yeah.
Large constellations, execution of complex mission or of high chain.
Yeah, Matt, they call us the lazy ones. Yeah, ridiculous.
L'ensemble de lancement, c'est le portique mobile.
Yeah, Michu, I'm kind of with you on that one.
Il faut avoir des ordres de grandeur à l'esprit. Il est aussi haut que le premier étage de la Tour Eiffel. Il pèse plus lourd.
Every single one of you European mother truckers, depending on what country, no, you know what? It doesn't even matter what country you're from. Every one of you guys owned all of continental Europe at some point in history. Okay, you telling me that's the best you can do? I don't want to hear excuses. Well, it's money. It's the bureaucracy. Blah, blah, blah. Dude, we have a bureaucratic nightmare too. We get it done. Ridiculous. Ridiculous. Do better. God, SMH my head.
Continuing the legacy of the Ariane family.
This Made in France will be the culmination of all this intense work across Europe.
Hey man, the French and the Germans made it all the way to Russia. That's a lot of land. That's a lot of ground to cover. Okay, you have to be pretty smart to accomplish something like that. Just saying. Okay.
Well, a rocket is nothing without its.
But you're a
launch
somewhat
pad, and we
unified
built
country.
A whole new launch system for Ariane 6, which really is a massive feat.
Don't do
of
that again,
engineering.
EJ. Yeah,
Tina, what do we actually mean by launch system?
So the launch system, Katie, for which ESA is responsible, is actually the combination of the rocket itself.
And only
its
Poland
launch
made
pad.
it to Moscow.
The launcher design and production was the responsibility of Ariane Group.
Don't piss
and
off
its
the
industrial
Europeans.
partners.
Why?
The launch pad.
What are they gonna do?
Discovery, go at throttle up.
See? Europeans, are you getting pissed off? That's the whole point. It's the whole point. You should look at this and be upset.
Discovery, go at throttle up.
Second means was done protecting actually fauna and flora here in Guyane.
And we're looking here now at a movie to show some of the stages.
Ooh.
What
Hang on,
happened
launchpad
during
construction. Shut up.
this?
So everything started with earthworks and excavation of this 28-meter deep hole. This is where the launch pad now has its flame exhaust ducts.
90 feet deep.
And here we see the start of the rail work for the mobile entry.
Oh,
This
grading.
Eiffel Tower on rails.
Oh, grading things.
And you remember, Katie, you've been in there.
I like that.
Very
Several
impressive.
floors.
Discovery,
Here
go
you
at
see
throttle
the
up.
steel structure
Well, I
actually
agree with
being
you.
built
Well,
in a time lapse.
no.
And on the left side of
Aragon, 5 month
of the
resub.
movie here, you see the water tower that is actually used to
That's not a water tower,
to
that's a
damp the noise,
starship.
at liftoff. And on the right side, you see the exhaust flame ducts for the boosters.
Oh, this is fantastic.
Huge concrete structures, actually.
That's where all the flames of the fire comes out.
Yeah. This here is the assembly building for the two stages. Now we do that in horizontal integration, which reduces the cost. And here
Fantastic.
we see some pictures
Magnifique.
of the installations for the propellant storage, handling, and transfer. There are thousands of components and valves, and actually a lot more than what we see here is underground.
Yeah, they're diverter tunnels. Yep.
Quite a labyrinth.
The flame trench goes left
We
and
have a
right.
look here
There's
at
a
the water
split
pool,
in the
which is
center.
equipped with the spark igniters.
That's a
and this is where
percolation
we burn the
pond.
hydrogen from the line's cooling process,
Pipes.
or when it evaporates during
Nice.
filling operations.
Nice. Yeah.
And here we
Oh,
have a quick
hey,
look at the
water.
water system test, and the water is actually being recycled after every launch. And to finish, we
Look
see
at
a
you
mock
guys
that
being
was
all
used to
environmentally
train putting the
friendly. Hey,
rocket
what
in vertical
propellant is in those
position.
SRBs again?
And finally,
Is
the
that good
cherry
for the
on cake
environment?
For the launch system was a long firing test.
I'm
we
sorry,
did
I'm being a
last year
dick
in
today. I'm
November,
sorry. This is
where
good
we
stuff, man.
qualified for the
I'm
main
happy.
stage flight.
Like, in all seriousness. You know,
The hot
at least
fire
you got
test,
something.
as it's known. So we have a number of passengers on board the bus today, sharing their ride. All spacecraft, of course. We don't have any
EJ woke
people
up
on
and chose
board.
violence. No. I like dumping on our European buddies. It's just that's a Northeast U.S. thing. If you know, you know. Anyway, no, you guys are all right. This is cool, man. Hey, you got something. Serious, like in all seriousness, you got something that's better than most. But like I said, it's tailor built for what you need. Now, you know, I wish there was more, but I understand the reasons why there isn't. Also, dude, somebody pressure wash that concrete. What the heck, man? Okay, I'm doing it again. But seriously, it's all dirty. Looks ridiculous. You do it. Oh, I would gladly do it. I would stream it, and I would get freaking hundreds of viewers doing that. I'd make money off pressure washing that, even if I did it for free.
2 re-entry capsules.
Some really interesting stuff.
It's
on
good,
board
old
there.
friendly, hate both
And we'll be
sides. I
finding
don't
out
know.
more about them later.
Look, man, I'm not gonna publicly badmouth something if somebody would be serious about it. You know what I mean? Like if I'm giving Germany, France, England, you know, Spain, Italy, if I'm giving you guys crap, it's because I like you. Yeah, it's the people I don't give crap to, you know, that probably. What propellant do they use? I'm pretty sure it's hydroxyl terminated polybutadiene and ammonium perchlorate. They're using a pretty similar SRB mixture to the US. I'm pretty sure. Hey, you don't mention Denmark. You don't like us? You exist? I don't think about you at all.
Parts of the range, now we see it better. The range
Was that good enough for you?
Telemetry, radars, the weather, and safeguarding. And today we have still
Hey,
a
range
bit
is
of the
everything's
launch
looking
window.
green.
Now
Board's
it's
green.
3 hours. We had a
Mad
little
Men,
delay
nice.
because
What do you
some,
think the
routine
money's
checks in the
for?
ground segment,
I just want to
equipment,
thank you. What do you think the money's for?
Earlier this morning. Yeah, but it means that there's still plenty of time to fix.
Yeah,
any
more
glitches,
rockets,
shift
more
the
better,
parameters.
Vulcan, indeed. That's the honest
We
truth.
have a couple of control rooms on
A
the job
tous
today.
des
We
vidéos.
have mission control, which is
I
what
will
we're
kick
looking
you
at. I
to
don't know,
all
50 to 20
Giants
kilometres
games
from the
for
pad.
next season.
A bit like the air traffic control tower at the
Come
airport.
over here and say that
and
to my
closer
face.
To the pad, we have launch control, a bit more like the cockpit of the plane. Of course, the rocket does go on autopilot after liftoff. Tina, this is your home.
Indeed, this was my home the past.
Prepare to
month.
fast forward.
You've been
Preparing
there
to
this
fast
morning?
forward.
Yeah.
Fast forwarding,
So
sir.
this is where we actually get the launch pad and the launcher ready for liftoff. The two teams working
New
here
control
in the
room.
direction. This is the team doing the actual operations. So these guys are having their hands on the rocket and on the pad, opening the valves, sending in the fuel, switching systems on and off. And next to this room, there's the room for the design authorities, as we call them. So the people who designs the system. Here we have them. This is where I would be sitting. So they see each other and they're separated only by a glass wall. During operations, the designers monitor what is happening in the systems in real time.
That man is playing Galaga.
Immediately when something
He thought we wouldn't notice, but we
it's a little
did.
bit unusual when things go slightly off track, and then they meet and troubleshoot in real time. So this is here what we call on site the buzz avant.
Pre-roll
and
ads
they are supported
reminder.
by engineers.
Yeah, guys, at T-minus 10 minutes, I'm going to roll ads so nobody gets pre-rolls during the launch. I hate ads for what it's worth, but I also hate clicking on a stream, especially if it thumbnails something that I want to see and seeing an ad right away. I hope you can empathize and understand.
Support office buzz arrière. It means we can engage more brains to solve trouble if we have some.
More brains,
The more brains,
better.
the better. I wonder how it feels to sit in there, Tina.
It's AL HTTP. Yeah, cool.
Right, we have the
That's very
last
toxic
weather check
for what it's
coming
worth.
up. There's
Not like,
rocket
oh, I hate
Ariane 6
everything.
standing
EJ making fun of the
tall on
EU
pad.
toxic. No, no.
We
It's,
are
this is
on the Amazonian coast of French Guiana in South America. It's hot, it's humid, it's been raining.
SRB exhaust
all
is
morning.
not stuff you want to play.
I mean, the
Laser Man, give it a sub.
this is space. I'm in space.
Helizer's gifted 5.
That is true. We can't control the weather. but
Thank
we
you for the
can
stream. No
monitor
problem,
it,
Lion.
and that's actually very important.
All right,
Weather
we're going to run the
conditions
ads
must be
now.
right for the launch to go ahead, so we always have our.
Should eat
our
a Snickers. You're a
eyes
little
on the
cranky
weather.
today.
And,
I
is
said I
rain a
make fun of people that I like. You said, what about my country? And I made fun of your country. What else do you want from me? You're sending mixed signals.
Well, that's a good job. As I said, it's been raining this morning, otherwise it would have melted.
Danish
but,
donuts or something.
But there are actually a lot of other things that we need to monitor as safety is paramount
nice,
here
Dodo.
at the base. So several
How is
weather
Titan?
checks during the day.
He's down in the house,
the first
dude.
one is made before actually removing the mobile gantry, so that was fine. We rolled back, and early in the chronology, we actually look at the wind on the pad
Good,
as
Ando.
long as we haven't fueled up. And we're
Waffles,
also looking
Danish
at wind,
waffles.
at
No, it's
altitude.
Belgian
so between
waffles.
10 and 20 kilometers, we look at the wind speed and the direction.
What do you think I am, the Pope?
We have to guarantee the best conditions for the mission
Nice.
and for safety reasons. And we also look for lightning
For your ad
Yes,
service.
that's
Yeah, I got
important
you,
too.
Lion.
How
It took
do
me
we
a second.
find
I'm
out
like, wait,
about
what?
So here we see the weather station here in
Station
Jul.
Météo.
And they are launching weather balloons carrying instruments that send back information on atmospheric temperature, pressure,
Yeah, Belgian
and
waffles
humidity.
are amazing.
And at the same time, we also have sensors around the launch base and at the coast.
You
for
got a
wind and
stroop
for
waffle
lightning.
right now?
And here we
Oh,
have
I'm
a look at the
jelly.
launch pad. We can see that
a little
we
jelly.
have 4 huge.
I have a
lightning
nice
masts, so we are
piping hot
protected on the
cup
pad
of coffee
in case
here
of
and no
lightning.
stroop to
But
enjoy
of
it.
course, once we
How
lift
tall
off,
is it?
we have to be sure
22
that there's
stories
no
cooking.
lightning
It's
risk.
about as tall as Falcon 9, maybe a tiny bit shorter.
Tina, you've been working here on site.
What are they launching?
for, some weeks, I
A bunch of
believe,
CubeSats.
and some of
Squall,
your
this is the
colleagues have been
inaugural
here.
flight, guys. This is the first flight for Ariane 6. Yeah, this is the first one. That's a helicopter. 60 meters, according to German television. Oh, 60 meters, yeah. So that's about 200 feet. So about 20 stories tall. And what's 22 stories in meters? Come on. You guys use stories? Ridiculous. What are the major differences between Ariane 5 and Ariane 6? Ariane 6 uses a sailboat. No, Ariane 6 is basically a beefed up Ariane 5 core stage. It's using, and I say beefed up, it's stronger and it's lighter, and it has an upgraded engine called it has an upgraded Vulcan engine right there. The second stage is also a lot bigger. It's a longer second stage, and it once again is made from the ground up. I said, oh, it's 20 years behind, but a lot of this is utilizing composite components for the inner stages and skirts and stuff. And then Ariane 6 is part of a much more integrated architecture. So Ariane 5 had its own SRBs, for instance, right? Ariane 5 had its own segmented SRBs, right, that it used, and it could only have 2 on either side. Ariane 6 can have up to 4. First of all, there they are installing them, right? That's the payload attachment fitting, and those are the payloads for this demo flight right there. It's a tiny little PAF. Those have the fairings in them, but so Ariane 5 has 2 SRBs. That's it. Now, once again, this is part of the ESA's much wider scope of the program. And, I said like, oh, they got to do more. Now, think about this. This is actually pretty damn smart. They want medium and heavy duty launch capability. Ariane 6 with 4 SRBs behind it is definitely some heavy launch capability. That's plus 25 plus metric tons to Leo. It's a pretty stout little vehicle for what it is, right? Now, if you notice, you have 2 SRBs, but you could also have 4. Now, here's the thing. On top of configurable SRBs for higher energy insertions, right, more delta V, heavier payloads, etc., those SRBs right there are P120Cs. That's the same stage. That's the same first stage as their medium duty launch vehicle, Vega, or Vega C right now. That is the first stage of their medium duty vehicle. First stage of their medium-duty vehicle is the attachable SRB on their heavy-duty vehicle. It's actually pretty smart, if I do say so myself. You're standardizing your production lines. Yeah. This basically makes the aerospace industry around Europe, because you're standardizing lines like that, makes it a lot more succinct and a lot stronger. You got to remember, like SLS, you know, I've been making jokes earlier, like SLS, Ariane 6 is designed to maintain a sustainable industrial base to be able to launch whenever you need. SLS is like it, except for that last part, the launch whenever you need part. But you get the idea. Yeah, that's a good cost reduction, but I'm going to shut up here.
So our
5 minutes.
range operations manager, Raymond Boyce, has announced the
It's actually pretty good. Not
5
necessarily
minutes
from like
of
capability. Like the thing isn't going to come back down and land, right? But it unifies the industrial base between the medium and heavy duty launch vehicles. And that's actually pretty smart. That's a pretty smart way of doing that.
Yeah. This is Limero, I think, cheering.
Yeah, that's why I said except, well,
millisecond intervals. It's a very impressive list. Sorry.
You know, you're saying SLS isn't sustainable, yet the SLS program has been going for a decade, not launched anything, and it has no signs of stopping. Oh, it's sustainable. It's just not our idea of sustainable. You know what I'm saying?
Final loading in the tanks. Pressurization to flight pressure.
Yeah, exactly, floating. They spread it around.
Arming of the safety barriers, and we do the handover. And if anything has to stop...
excuse me, we need the signs back. The shot is over. Give us the signs back. We need these back. Thank you.
And here we can see the teams at Ariane Group cheering on Ariane 6.
Everyone's there.
Hey, Milo.
And here the teams in Bremen. Moin Bremen. Everyone is here.
Ah,
awesome.
It's the Germans.
Yeah.
So we are getting close now. Concentration levels very high.
Nice, Yuri.
A number of things to watch out for as we get
very much so,
closer now
Belgian.
to launch, and a few things at launch, and a few changes for people who are familiar with Ariane 5. If you look at the top of the launcher, you can't see them very easily from here, but there's sort of two yellow things clamping on at the top 3/4 of the way up. We call those the cryogenic arms. What's their job?
Catching 85
There's
months.
a better shot of them.
Yeah. So we are fueling the rocket with liquid oxygen and hydrogen that we send through these arms, and the propellants actually have to be kept at very low temperatures. Liquid hydrogen at
Ariane is so economically feasible that Turkey is launching their satellites on Falcon 9. Savage, dude. Your words, Mishu, not mine.
We cannot really see it because we are in daylight. Otherwise, you would see smoke coming out. So we need to top up the tanks until the last seconds. And
it's a little bit behind Dr. J, but it's actually not bad.
On the upper stage, as you can see, also on the lower stage. Here we have the pictures of the lower stage, actually, the fueling system on the lower stage.
I'll be 100% honest. The stopgap between Ariane 5 and Ariane 6 is actually not that big. It's actually a pretty successful stopgap, considering the downtime has been less than a year since the last Ariane 5 launch, if I'm remembering right. I mean, COVID screwed up my internal clock, but what makes it good will be high manufacturing rates, for sure. Is chat go question? Yes.
Boosters. And once the boosters are switched on, of course, we lift off. There's no holding us back. And another thing that you might see are the plume effects of these boosters. So the extreme heat of the booster waves onto the launch pad need to be managed. And here we have a look at Vulcan, so we will see it firing up in a minute.
This is the main Vulcan engine on the main stage.
Indeed.
Now.
Indeed. And we see here that
yes, that wire was taped in. It's a sensor that they're using to understand how the engine start works with a full stack.
Onto the balcony
no, it's not going to
watch
survive.
The launch in real life. We're getting close now, coming up to the 1 minute mark. The range operations manager getting ready to call that out.
À tous de DDO, attention pour moins d'1 minute.
This is the mission director. Stand by. We're at T-1 minute.
Top, I0 moins d'1 minute.
Stop.
We are 1 minute to launch. Our best wishes to all the Ariane 6 teams and everyone
was the last
who's been
Ariane
working
5
so
launch.
hard for today. Good luck, everyone.
Hey, your stopgap is pretty damn good, Foz.
Gute Reise and bon voyage.
Right. Bon voyage, mon ami.
À tous de DDO, attention pour le décompte final.
Stand by for the final count.
10, 9,
10, 9,
8,
8,
7,
7,
6,
6,
5,
5,
4,
4. Ignition.
2, 1.
Good ignition. And
Allumage de
liftoff.
GSR, décollage.
Liftoff, the inaugural flight of Ariane 6, launching in the 6-2 configuration out of Kourou in French Guiana. Looks good. That looked like a good ignition. Obviously, the SRBs are working. You can tell because of the way it is.
Nominal.
That's the energy. That's the energy from strap-on boosters,
nominal.
Jax. It goes. She goes, man. SRBs put out a lot of energy really, really quickly. Ascent looks good. I'd like some telemetry if we could get
Europe's new rocket.
Pilotage calme, trajectoire nominale.
Ariane 6
better
has
cameras.
left the pad.
Cameras are a little bit
blazing
better
a trail
quality this time
across
around
the
than Ariane 5.
skies. The Ranger Operations Manager is telling us
Oh, no,
that
go back to that,
everything
please.
is going according
Dang
to
it.
plan. Tina.
And I didn't know my heart can pump so fast. Oh my god.
Trajectoire nominale, pilotage calme.
Rumbling now.
Thrust plumes on the SRBs look good. That's what this camera is for. That's why the plumes look a weird color. You can see them tailing off in thrust. They should start thrust tail off soon.
This is happening.
It's the most incredible feeling. We're on the edge of tears here in the commentary box because this is a big day and a big moment.
Save the tears for when it
Trajectoire
works.
nominale.
Everything looks
Actually, the
good.
building's rumbling around us now.
Something on the downcomer over
Look
there is
these are
wobbling
live
around,
images
but I
from
don't think that's
from the
anything.
cameras on board.
We're looking at the booster. We're looking down.
We're looking downwards.
One of the two boosters, we can see the flames coming out of that booster because, of course, the
Positionne la
boosters,
télémesure par la station de Saint-Jean, propulsion nominale.
boosters are doing all the work.
Very nice.
He's
Very
telling us
nice.
that everything is going according to plan and everything is nominal.
And look at the visibility. We might even be
C'est
able
nominal,
to see the
trajectoire
separation.
nominale.
Trajectory is nominal.
We have clear skies tonight, this afternoon. We had rain all day, but the clouds parted.
Tail off on the SRB is looking good.
Two
SRBs don't like shut off. They just gradually tail off and thrust. Like those SRBs are still firing, but it's not enough. Good separation. It's not enough to maintain sufficient thrust. But see, yeah, they don't shut off. They actually they tail off and thrust over time until they can't maintain combustion chamber pressure.
These pictures are coming in.
This camera might be a little bit
Delayed,
delayed. Good
which is why we
separation
have
there.
Now,
See how it's still firing?
look at this, how they fall off. Wow. Amazing, amazing. So these boosters, they have transported us 60 kilometers high.
A little bit of a radial out component. Looks like a little bit of a roll rate was induced on the vehicle during separation, but the guidance system seemed to have caught it. It kind of moved a little bit.
And we've got a camera inside now. What are we looking at here, Tina?
That was
so
looking
back
up the
down at
business
Earth.
end of the
This
second
was actually
stage.
a camera inside the interstage, so we will be able to see when the lower stage
If
separates.
the core stage
It's coming
does
up.
that a little bit
But now
during
we've actually
separation,
lost
it means
half
one
our mass
separated just a
already
little
because
bit
the
before the
boosters have
other.
burned almost
But
300
I'm
tons
talking
of
about a
fuel in
fraction of a
2
second.
minutes'
Pilotage
time.
calme, trajectoire nominale.
Everything nominal,
And
as
we're
the range
getting-
operations manager says.
Yes, and we're getting close
No,
now
nothing
to
is reused,
the next
malicious,
thing,
yeah.
which will be the jettisoning of the fairing being the nose cone of the launch vehicle, which is where the passengers are sitting. Oh,
Séparation de la coiffe.
You even see the...
La coiffe.
Wow, that's amazing.
Fairing.
we had confirmation there that the fairing has been jettisoned.
Yes, so the fairing that was
okay,
was out of the atmosphere. We didn't need her anymore.
that was a hell of a rate
And it
being
has been
imparted on the
jettisoned.
vehicle.
So what we're looking at now is the main stage, which is what we're burning on the right hand of the screen.
Us, and this is the live camera from orbit, and we see the fairing falling off there.
And
amazing pictures.
See the clouds moving in the background? There's a little bit of a roll rate being imparted on the
nominal,
vehicle.
propulsion nominal.
Exactly. And we also see on the screen on the right side actually the telemetry. So on the top you see the trajectory. So
the trajectory is still looking good, so that
and
tells me, fellas, that this is a radial out component, meaning the rocket pitched up, and its velocity vector is this way, and it's pointing up. That is done. That's normal if that's what's going on. That's totally cool.
Là, il reste moins de 3 minutes de propulsion du Vulcain.
2.4 kilometers per second, and the main stage is operating.
It is, and you can see it here. It's a great big tank.
Altitude
of
is 148
fuel.
kilometers.
Indeed.
Distance
So
391 kilometers downrange.
High,
Velocity is 2.5 kilometers a second.
Weighs 23 tons when it's empty, and it can carry 100.
It's not an inefficient trajectory, Sajid. It's a low energy insertion.
The boosters. For our technical audience, we
I
don't
mean,
have
if we want to be really technical,
anymore,
Falcon 9 does
we
that.
have now two separate
Falcon 9
tanks,
has a radial out
and this
component.
makes the handling of the pressures a
We'll
bit
see.
easier than on Ariane 5.
When it comes to core stage separation, we'll see if the vehicle evens out and gets realigned with the velocity vector. You'll see a pitch down component there happening right before separation.
Right, mainly for cost reduction reasons with regard to Ariane 5.
It has made it
The
further
loss
than the first
manufacturing is
Ariane 5
completely
flight,
different,
KO.
and, the
Yeah,
gas
that's
generator
true.
is made of additive manufacturing.
Il reste moins de 2 minutes de propulsion du Vulcain.
1 minute till separation on the core stage.
So the Vulcan engine has a new challenge because the booster plumes impact at liftoff. They're actually so high that
What is the roll control on the first stage? Does it have auxiliary engines, or does it just use RCS? I'd have to look at the motor jacks, but oftentimes they use the gas generator output as a vectorable thrust for roll control.
Right now.
They use the
We're
exhaust
getting
from the
closer
rocket
now
engine.
to the next phase,
Gas
which
generator.
is
But I'd
switching
have to
off
look
the
at
engine
Vulcan to be able to tell
and
you.
jettisoning the main stage, because of course we want to
Yeah,
use
that's
each
a
section
hell of a
the
roll
rocket
rate
as
right
we
there.
climb higher.
That's not...
Lighter we are, the faster we go. So we're separating the next stage, but that's actually quite a complex process, isn't it?
Indeed, because you have to detect first that the rocket is actually ready.
I'll tell you that a roll rate during separation is not ideal.
And afterwards,
We'll see,
the engine is cut off, and 6 seconds later only, we will see separation of the stage, initiated by pyro commands. And we do that by actually extending a set of springs. And the push that the lower stage does to get rid of the upper stage.
Okay, this is live trajectory up here. It's still on a nominal trajectory. It just has a roll component. So the thing is doing this. It's doing that, and I'm not sure if that's okay or not. That's not something I've seen, but then again, it's the first flight of this rocket. So here, I'm going to shut up. We're getting to main engine cutoff.
Getting close now to what we call MECO.
It's possible, Aquas, yeah. Other rockets do roll like this on the way up for antennas, to point the antennas at the right place.
Fin de mission sauvegarde.
Telling us that the safety mission here at the Space Center is now finished. We should be seeing something.
Extinction du moteur Vulcain.
Stand by for ignition on the Vinci upper stage.
Séparation LLPM.
And
Good.
The lower stage has separated, so he gets these informations before we can see them on the screen.
That happens sometimes, Van.
Allumage du moteur Vinci.
And Vinci has ignited. Wow, that's a very, very, very important moment of this mission. Congrats to Bremen and to Bernard.
That's an old school way of doing things, Van. Spin the vehicle.
Yep, happy faces. The upper
There's shot
stage,
from staging.
Lower stage
Propulsion nominal.
Oh, hell yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, that roll seemed okay.
Will we see the Vinci engine also?
Oh, that's fantastic. What a shot.
I don't know if that can be seen on the camera.
That's
wow, this
nice.
is really something.
We can see
That's
it.
nice.
Look. You see the color changing on the Vinci engine?
Discovery, go and
As it's
throttle up.
heating up?
Oh, nice, girl.
Beautiful. And you can see that we're actually up there right now.
So you can see.
Okay, come on back now. Correct.
And look at that, Tina, the curvature of the Earth with the Vinci engine burning away.
Allumage APU
It stabilized out. It corrected.
Calling out that the APU, a new feature actually on the Vinci, on the upper stage of Ariane 6.
We're still in the track, guys. As long as that X stays inside of the circle, we're good to go.
Here, because the big innovation actually of Ariane 6 is, of course, the reignitable Vinci engine. It can switch on and switch off, and it does that by the help of the APU.
Pilotage calme, propulsion nominale.
So both are running as planned.
That roll rate is still there.
We are now in our first Vinci burn phase, and we will reignite the Vinci engine twice.
Testing limits on control systems. You don't want to test limits on control systems on the first flight. The first flight should be good for a baseline, Duckman. You do that later.
In France, and the whole stage has been put under test in Lampolshausen on a brand new test bench.
It's hard to say,
by the
triplicate.
German Space Agency, the DLR. And that's.
I'm wondering if that's an induced roll rate. This is the upper stage, Hoki. First stage had a roll rate too.
First Ariane 6 is off the ground. Let's take a little look now at what's coming
Maybe a roll
up
to stabilize it. That the RPM on that roll rate is way too low for stability. Like way too low. You'd need to spin faster than that if you want spin stabilization.
Our partners on the significant evolution of Ariane 6 to improve its performance and therefore its competitiveness. It includes evolution of the solid boosters and evolution of the upper stage engine.
It's staying in the track, guys. Yeah. But then again, a roll rate wouldn't show up on this. Clean feed. Thank you, Vulcan. Roll rates wouldn't show here, but there is a slight roll to it. That's slow enough to... That's too slow. It's too slow to be a stability roll. It could be on purpose. I don't know. We're not familiar with Ariane 6. We have nothing to compare it to. I'm going to keep that clean feed up there.
Et donc c'est pour ça qu'on numérise la base, entre guillemets. Ça va nous permettre de faire ces passages d'un client à l'autre.
The barbecue roll, you generally don't roll the vehicle during ignition on your state.
In the short term, we are preparing how Ariane 6 can better fit a very quickly evolving market. For instance, with new boosters that have more capabilities. In the midterm, it can be the preparation of such a thing as reusable stages and engines. We are preparing Prometheus and Themis demonstrator.
Yeah, KO, I doubt it.
Guaranteeing Europe's independent access to space
cut off
for decades to come.
1832.
It will launch missions to the moon, cargo to the surface of the moon, and it will launch our scientific satellites, such as Envision to Venus.
Acquisition de la télémesure par la station de Santa Maria aux Açores.
We have acquisition to the next ground station.
Proactively pursue is part of my strategy to really change ESA, transform ESA, but also space in Europe. And yes, this is something I'm really
Trajectoire nominale.
Hypothesis: they did this because the payload was so light they wanted to get
And
high
here
cosine.
on a hill just outside the...
They wanted to get high cosine losses to ensure burn to depletion, improve vehicle performance. That's possible. Yeah, I would say that's a pretty good prevailing theory, but from Scott, but that doesn't explain the role. That's
to the Galliot station, which is so here on site, and the team that we see now here, they don't enjoy the good weather because they're actually the ones analyzing these data in real time. And
usually the roll is
really
used during transfer to spread thermal impact. Yeah, but roll if you roll a spacecraft like that while the engine is firing, you run, and this could maybe they found a way around it. You're running the risk of sloshing your propellants around doing that, basically creating a toilet bowl inside of your rocket engine. That's generally what baffles are for. Yeah, I don't think you'd need to worry about thermals too much. I mean, you do, obviously, but we'll see. We'll see if the ignition is, or if the engine cutoff is on time. The Vinci engine should burn for about another 4 minutes here.
Nominal. Fin de visibilité par la station de Saint-Jean-du-Maroni.
Yes, the A question mark ores, yeah.
Ariane 6, c'est une épopée. On se sera beaucoup investi, mis beaucoup d'énergie, beaucoup de bonne volonté. Et à la fin, on sera fiers de nous. Je pense que c'est exceptionnel. On n'est pas nombreux finalement dans le monde à pouvoir dire j'ai développé un lanceur. Et c'est vraiment extraordinaire.
Forcément, il reste moins de 4 minutes de propulsion du Vinci.
It's like an RL10 Oclux, yeah.
C'est sûr. Et par contre, ça va laisser surtout des souvenirs d'émotions incroyables, comme lors
de la visibilité de la télémesure par la station de Galio.
L'émotion qu'on a eue quand s'est déroulé. C'est des souvenirs que je suis pas prêt d'oublier.
Pour c'était le 2.1, les opérations que l'on a fait pendant toute la nuit avec cette adrénaline qui nous maintient éveillés, qui nous permet de rester concentrés pendant des heures et des heures.
No one seemed worried or
les
concerned.
opérations que l'on déroule. Donc
Yeah,
c'est quelque chose aussi
it's probably expected, guys. No one's freaking out, and the vehicle's on its trajectory. But
c'était le Covid, on travaillait sous le portique avec les masques, la chaleur.
Yeah, the guidance system could compensate, but yeah, that first stage seemed to have an induced roll here. You wouldn't I've never heard of anybody barbecue rolling a core stage. So what they do is they basically they put a roll velocity component on the rocket like this to ensure that the outside skin of the vehicle gets heated from the sun, because the sun's coming in one direction when you're up in space, right? I mean, it's coming from one direction when you're down here, but there's no reflected light. I mean, there is off Earth, but you get what I'm trying to say. So they do that to ensure better thermals so the propellants don't boil off. But it seemed to start really happening at stage separation, which, I don't know, man. Are they diving to gain velocity? Yeah, a trajectory like this makes... this is a low energy ascent trajectory, Hellfish. They use the SRBs to loft this thing high enough to basically make it so the upper stage does not need as much thrust. So it can focus solely on Delta V. The Vinci's a good engine, man. It's a good motor. Yeah, you do something like this with an extremely low thrust, extremely high efficiency, upper stage. This also gives you better control of apogee insertion, believe it or not. If you burn through apogee like this, it gives you better control of your insertion orbit. Anybody that's played Kerbal and is screwed up knows exactly what I'm talking about. Gone past the apogee, you got a problem. But no, they do this on purpose. Well, the magic number that we're looking for here is 7.6 kilometers a second. 600 meters a second Delta V left. There is about 1 minute and 10 seconds left on the burn.
An adventure that we all share.
It is rolling a little bit. The animation is showing that, but everything looks okay here.
And really a big cheers to all of them and to all of our families who supported this incredible time. Because to all this team and to our families, this is where I really want to dedicate.
Il reste moins d'1 minute du moteur de l'étage supérieur, Vinci.
So we have 1 more minute before we actually supposed to have cut off of Vinci, and let me use this. They were talking about the adrenaline in the movie.
You can make an upper stage. That upper stage is better if you have a lot of thrust out of the hole, SRBs in the first stage, and then hydrolocks in the second. Yeah, you can optimize it basically, or you optimize around your upper stage. You basically lob the thing, and before it basically circularizes before it falls back down.
It's an awful lot.
We have actually done the calculations based on our statistics.
Atlas does that sometimes. Depends on the orbit.
In just over 2 years.
Oh my goodness, Tina. You lot drink a lot of coffee.
Stand by for engine cutoff.
To move a rocket up.
Human rocket fuel.
You sure?
We just had the confirmation that Vinci actually cut off.
Second stage engine cutoff was a little teeny weeny bit behind. The call was it was a couple seconds past. 7.5 is... That's a little short. You need 7.6. Does it matter? Oh yeah. Oh yeah, it matters.
Second ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, per second. And so that's the first major accomplishment.
L'orbite atteinte à l'extinction du Vinci est nominale.
Everything nominal.
Good shutdown on the second stage.
So that's happy faces all round.
Yes, and this is actually where Ariane 5 would stop its mission. We could be now on a transfer orbit to geostationary orbit, but with Ariane 6 we actually plan to take the mission further and reignite the Vinci engine, and this will allow us to travel to it.
She is going down on a projected path, so it is in a slightly eccentric orbit.
In a minute, because we are scheduled to release our next set of spacecraft about 45 minutes from now, but we've accomplished this first hugely important phase. And look
There
at
is a
that,
relight space, yeah.
That's the perspective from...
That's a little low, guys. I'm telling you right now, from these numbers, that's a
We
little
have
low.
a beautiful planet that we're looking.
We're very...
And that roll rate is...
So
Nope, roll rate's gone. It's not rolling at all anymore. So yeah, that tells me that roll was induced. It was on purpose.
La propulsion est nominale, le pilotage est calme.
All right. Nice.
Fin de la compensation APU.
They have a reacquisition of signal.
Orbite atteinte à la fin de la compensation APU est normale.
Les commentaires reprendront au 50 plus 52 minutes. The commentary will resume at T plus 52 minutes. See? Hey, you didn't... I already translated it for them, guys. Jeez. Oui. Yeah, she ain't circular, guys. It's close, but it's not circular.
Acquisition de la télémesure par la station d'Ossagel.
Laforte, you would like to ask, as a Slovakian, fourth Slovak probe was on this flight. Do you think it is worth it to put probes on test flights for small countries? Yeah, very low risk. Sure. You basically, it's a free ride into space, Forte. Yeah, all those, the Slovakian satellite that's on there, you guys didn't pay for the ascent. You just, because it's a test, you don't know if it's going to make it, right? That's why they're not charging for it. Yeah, absolutely. First flights on a lot of different rockets, not just Ariane Space, not just the ESA. A lot of first flights on rockets have payloads on board, and they don't charge anything. Because it gets them good data on potential payloads in the future. SLS did the same thing, dude. Oh, yeah. Did the ESA just kiss of death Lego ideas? That's what happened, isn't it? Yep. Okay. All right. PLD is doing the same with the first two Mira 5 launches. Yeah, exactly. That's industry standard, Forte. Yeah, this happens all the time. And it's good because it helps more countries jump up into space. Look, man, my back hurts. As an American, my back hurts from carrying us. Let's go. Come on. My back hurts. I broke my back. Spinal. À tous des DDoS. Is Ariane the only European spacecraft? It's the only government spacecraft. There's also Vega as Malak, yeah. I slam dunk on little kids. But Europe has a bolstering commercial industry too. There are commercial providers, and there's always Copenhagen suborbitals. Copenhagen suborbitals is pretty rad. Those guys do good work. I've talked to a couple of guys from there before in the past. Get some artifacting there. There's Rocket Factory Augsburg. And since the UK decided they didn't want to be in the EU anymore, no, I don't care about your political opinions regarding this, just listen. When the EU separated from the European Union, they started doing their own stuff. There are a bunch of small sat companies in the UK that will be that are kind of up and coming right now. There's who launches at Saxavord? I forget. But they're building new launch sites in the UK for polar orbit launches, etc., etc. When the EU separated from the European Union, when the UK separated from the European Union. Sorry, I'm watching the trajectory and trying to explain this at the same time. This is why I fought for that. But for us, 5 million people, it's very expensive to put the satellite into space. I'm just asking if it is worth it to put that probe into space on a test flight or just pay 100%. I'd say it's absolutely worth it. There's no harm, no foul with a CubeSat Forte for sure. All small sats, though. Better than nothing. Saxavord will be RFA, Skyroar, and possibly ABL. There you go. They're not going to restart operations, Jax. They're going to use it as for other things. I don't know what it's going to be used for. Right now, see, I'm watching the trajectory. The X is a little ways out of the circle. They're drifting a little bit. But it's not showing over here, which is interesting. So right now the vehicle's in a coast phase, guys. They're okay. I see what's going on in here. At perigee, they're at orbital. So this is slightly eccentric from what I'm looking at here. Juler, no part of Ariane 6 comes back. Yeah, that, Thomas. The spacecraft is tumbling like when you fast forward in KSP. I'm all for space exploration. We are on our path to the ESA. Thank you for your response. Yeah, no problem, dude. Okay, she's basically over Oslo right now. Moving over to Desved. And it's going to basically fly over Helsinki and a little bit of St. Petersburg, too. In the right daylight conditions, you should absolutely be able to see this, guys. It might be a little too late over in Europe. The ideal time to see satellites, stages flying by is at dawn or at dusk because the sun is perpendicular to your position and perpendicular to spacecraft. So that, you know, if the sun's coming up over the horizon, you know, it's still dark where you are. You're still behind the terminator, right? The day-night line, but up on orbit, right? It's in sunlight. It's in direct sunlight. So that's the time to see stuff. I think it's too dark in Europe right now. It's too far into the night.
Acquisition de la télémesure par le satellite TDRS.
Acquisition through TDRS? If there's still a little bit of daylight out, Zizep, you might be able to see it. It's past you, though. Yeah, that's right. You guys are you're at a high latitude. Yeah, it should still be daylight up there. You guys, yeah, you might be able to see it. Yeah, Jonas, seems to be going well. I don't see any of this in mission control or any of this or this or that. That's a telltale sign, just in case anybody's wondering. If you haven't seen me cover these before, if they look at mission control and you see people doing this, something is very wrong. Or if you see people doing this right here, not necessarily a bad thing. That means, what the hell's it doing? But yeah, if you see this, or this, or this, something's gone horribly wrong. Every time. Acquisition of telemetry by the satellite TDRS. Yeah, they had an acquisition of signal through TDRS. They're using NASA's tracking and communication network. Here in northern Italy, it's still a little bit of daylight. That far north, still plenty of daylight. Yeah, remember, it has to be dusk, guys. It has to be, the sun has to be low on the horizon.
Nominal.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, Ando. Yeah. All right. Now it's basically on the border between Finland and Russia.
Propulsion APU nominal, pilotage calme.
Like Hearts of Iron all over again. Oh, we should play that game. Sunset in the Netherlands is 21:55. It's way too bright for the Scandinavian fins to see it. Yeah, you're right on that Terminator line. The Terminator line seems to be right here. Now would be, if you're like right here in this area, now would be the time to go look. You'd be able to see it if it wasn't cloudy. Because once again, the sun is basically backlighting it. You'll see it. APU propulsion and navigation is okay. Now, the trajectory is starting to go up in altitude, so we should start losing speed. When altitude goes up, if altitude goes up and you're losing speed, that means, yeah, you're in a slightly eccentric orbit. So the orbit is slightly egg-shaped right now, which basically the engine cutoff numbers basically confirm that. Any St. Petersburg is here to confirm. Jonas, there used to be a lot of people from Russia that watch the stream, but I've noticed that number has gone down a little bit. But yeah, they're out there. Imagine a missile shooting down the mission from Russian airspace. No, the Russians wouldn't do that. They're crazy, but they ain't that crazy. Blowing this thing up at this altitude would threaten your own astronauts or cosmonauts on the ISS. Yeah, because here's the thing, dude. Everyone that flies into space is smart enough to know this. Dude, okay, it's not the movies, all right? You know, you see Star Wars. Okay, any Star Wars fans out there? Old Star Wars. Like, we could go in the prequels. You know, in the prequels, right? At the beginning of episode 2, right? There's that ship that Anakin and Obi-Wan are on, and it gets blown up, and then it starts falling back down into the atmosphere. That's not how that works. That's not how that works at all.
Nominal, pilotage APU nominal.
Everything looks good. That's not how that works. Look, man, this thing is going 7.6 kilometers a second that way. It has a lot of kinetic energy that way. Hitting it with a missile doesn't mean that it'll stop and it'll fall back down. Hitting it with a missile means it'll just blow up and keep going that way. So, and then you have that debris field in this orbit, and then anything that flies into an orbit or a similar trajectory like this, or even an orbit going in a different direction at this altitude, is subject to basically a shotgun blast of upper stage. That includes, you know, say it was an adversarial country, that includes their own satellites. So oh great, you blew up this stage, that's fine. Now that stage is all this debris that's floating around, that's going to gradually just blow up all your satellites, because look, man, that velocity is really, really fast. Shooting a satellite, like if I had a satellite in front of me and I shot it with a rifle, like let's just say I had a, you know, it's European, this is European vehicle. So say we had a FAL, right? And we went, bah, 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 bah. Guess what? That's going at a snail's pace compared to that. Rifle cartridges don't go that fast, not even close. We're going like 3 times the speed of a bullet here. Actually 4, it's closer to 4. That debris field would be like getting showered with a shotgun blast, but the shotgun blast is going 4 times as fast. So you don't, this basically creates a debris field, and it creates an unusable launch corridor. That launch corridor is now inaccessible to everyone, right? It's basically a standoff. And anyone that's smart enough to make a vehicle that launches into space knows this. The Russians, us, even the Chinese, they know it. Europeans, obviously. Japan, everybody understands this, that if you do something like that, you know, to be adversarial, right, you're going to be in a world of hurt. Not just, I mean, everybody's going to be pissed at you, right? But also your own satellites will most likely get taken out as well. It's mutually assured destruction, but in space. This phenomenon of these debris fields going around and showering other satellites and them blowing up and keep showering other satellites is called Kessler syndrome. It's absolutely a thing. And there's a reason why we keep the peace in space, because a equalizer in defense doctrine doesn't matter the country. An equalizer is spy satellites, being able to peep on have accountability and being able to peep on what the enemy is doing. No one wants to surrender that capability. No one will surrender that capability. That's what's kept the peace in space for over 50 years. And it's not, no one's that stupid. It ain't going anywhere anytime soon. So you most likely wouldn't see something like that. That's going to screw everybody, including yourself, doing something like that. You don't want to do that. Now, that doesn't mean that there is an ASAT test, Killmeister, and it's not to say that those anti-satellite tests from the US, Russia, India, China aren't causing debris, right? All I'm saying is that the ASAT test that we did, where we had an F-15 fly on a high suborbital arc, as much as the F-15 could do it, and then launch an ASAT missile to hit a satellite, that satellite was already deorbiting. Just saying. Other countries have just launched at satellites that are orbiting. India's ASAT test was stupid. So was China's. Russia, actually not too bad. The Russians did it on a disposable satellite that they were disposing as well. You know. Anytime someone says no one, someone's saying hold my beer. Well, still far, that's why it's in everybody's best interest for, you know, countries that potentially want to boogaloo, you know what I'm saying? Like North Korea or Iran, that are launching these missiles. Like, and I'm not saying that they don't have their own peaceful space programs. I don't think North Korea does, though. But the people that don't understand this technology, right, abusing it, could cause problems for everybody. There's a reason why there's an international coalition against, like, you know, when a new country wants to launch something into space, everyone's like, eh. There's a good reason for that. Returning to zero sats is net positive for Russia in a war scenario. No, it's not. You feeling all right? Driados, taking out everybody's satellites and flying blind is basically setting your enemies up for a first strike because you won't be able to see it coming. Yeah, Jim, we have other ways. We should get an acquisition of signal through luck now. But anyway, yeah, an anti-satellite or an anti-stage missile is very unlikely. So this is a tweet from the ESA. We're using the auxiliary power unit in a propellant settling mode where it provides a tiny amount of thrust, which stops the propellant spreading randomly instead of keeping it collected at the bottom of the tank. The APU is putting it under acceleration for prop settling, RT. Yeah. Mishu, I wasn't gonna make the joke, and I'm kind of disappointed somebody did.
Acquisition de la télémésière par la station de Lucknow.
The NASA odds of being hit by space junk is on the order of 1 to 1 trillion, to be fair. Yeah, Gil, that's not being fair to anybody. There's a reason why it's 1 to 1 trillion, why the micrometeorite debris or a debris strike on a spacecraft is minimal, because we've kept the peace, because everybody adheres by these rules, because no one wants to lose their spy satellites, or, I mean, the astronauts and that multi-bajillion-dollar space station that we have up there and all the people from a bunch of different countries that are on board. That, I mean, if we're going to get down to brass tacks, that's probably important. One could use Starship to eat satellites Moonraker style. I want Starship to Pac-Man the ISS and bring it back down, personally. Just saying. Hey, AJ, I missed the launch. Any chance of a replay? Yeah, sure. It's good. Actually, the launch looked real good. It was real nice. This is a replay, guys. I'll replay it for you. Here. Brass tacks in space would not be ideal. You're not wrong.
10, 9, 8, 7, 6,
Hydrogen purging.
4, 3, 2, 1, top.
Oh,
Allumage
yeah.
2 SR, décollage.
Oh, yeah, baby. That was good, man. Real good. Real good launch. Why is there a wire in the nozzle? It's a sensor. It's a sensor. It's a developmental. Those are called DFIs, developmental flight instrumentation sensors.
Discovery, go and throttle.
And what it's doing is basically a sensor that's going to be in there to. It's a secondary sensor to make sure that the engine ignited correctly. Let's just say it's a one-time use sensor and call it a day. It's a one-time use thing, you know? Bro, Handy. Yeet. Yeah, it was good, man. That was a really good ascent. Yeah, here, watch the tape. Yeah, see? Yeah, it's gone. If I had to guess what that sensor is doing, it's probably a HAS-gas sensor. Hazardous gases. So you can tell because of the flames that it's using hydrogen. You can tell because of the way it is. Now, these bright yellow and orange-ish flames indicate hydrogen. And what that sensor is probably doing is detecting hydrogen quantity right before ignition. Because for the most part, with a rocket engine, you have to flood it. See these deep orange flames right there? That's hydrogen. But look, unburnt hydrogen everywhere. See it? See all this? See all these clouds? I'll bet you that's what that's detecting. When you start a rocket engine, there has to be a momentary second where your injector plate gets up to pressure, and then you ignite everything. So for a split second, you see there's a lot of unburnt propellant in the nozzle. I'll bet you that's what that sensor is looking for. It's probably looking for the quantity of unburnt propellants in there. That's the other reason why it appears to have those little jets on either side of the engine, because it's a hydrogen purging system. Got to be careful about hydrogen during ignition. See right here? There's two purge igniters here. Basically, those things are designed to burn off the gaseous hydrogen during ignition. The space shuttle had something similar to this. The sparklers, Delta IV has those sparklers too. It's really important that you burn it off, because if you let the engine, the combustion chamber, the throat, and the nozzle fill up with unburnt propellant, and then you go to ignite it, you're risking basically the rocket engine equivalent of rod knock. Yeah, explosions, not the kind that you want. You guys ever see a video of like a jar filled with methane or hydrogen gas? Like if you're looking at like YouTube or something, or your science class or whatever, they have a jar full of hydrogen gas, and the guy lights the match and he lets it go, right? And the flames start building up, and then the thing goes, I'm a fire in my laser. That, but with that. That's not good for it. That is very bad for a rocket engine. That creates what's called a hard start scenario. That didn't happen here. The ignition was perfect. It looked fine. Looked fine to me. But if you get a detonation inside of the nozzle, that's about as bad as it sounds. Yeah, that's why you have those purge flames there. Here, ready? We should be able to see it for a split second. You should see, yeah, see? Right there. There was a huge cloud of hydrogen gas that came through here, but it immediately hit the purger. See all that? It immediately hit the flames and ignited right there. You can actually see the flame igniting it a little bit right there. And look, see how quickly it burns off? Hydrogen with oxygen anywhere near it is extremely flammable. Like, extremely flammable. It doesn't matter if it's oxygen in the atmosphere. It doesn't matter if it's near liquid oxygen. It doesn't matter if it's in a blimp. Very flammable. Very flammable. Yep. See, that basically clears out. It gives the hydrogen a place to go, and it's basically creating... Igniting this is basically pulling all that hydrogen out. It's not a siphon. It's basically creating vacuum inside of there right before ignition, because the flame being down below the nozzle, it pulls any hydrogen out for a split second, and then the thing turns on. See how all of it kind of just starts accelerating that way right before? I mean, the engine is not lit here. You can tell because the tape that's inside of the nozzle that's detecting hydrogen is still there. You'll know when the engine ignites, because that tape is in that wire is going to wire in very fast. So yep, purge flames are still doing their thing. I'm just going to back this up a little bit. I just want to see it. Ooh. So that right there, that bright flash is the igniter, whatever ignition system they're using to light the hydrogen off. Yeah, that's what that is. And you could see it instantly ignited any hydrogen that was unburnt in the purgers. It ignited that real fast. Would that be a Bernoulli's principle or a Venturi? Venturi's use Bernoulli's principle, Flykin. I don't know if it's a spark igniter, but if you want to understand how a rocket engine works, I'm not saying it's self-sustaining ignition, but it works basically like a propane grill. Like if you have a propane grill, you turn the gas on and then you hit the igniter, and same idea, but you only need to hit the igniter once, and then the flames just keep going as long as gas is flowing. My new record's coming out soon. So you only need to hit the igniter once, and once it's on fire, you don't need it anymore. Yeah, that's how fast this can happen, Alex. You see that? Yeah, that's the igniter going off, and this is what you got to be careful of. You don't want this happening up there. If it happens up there, the rocket engine, it'll hard start and it'll explode. Yeah, it's not even a judgment call. That's just physics. It'll pop like a balloon. No problem, Dr. J. Now, what's going to happen here is as the the exhaust gases start accelerating out the bottom because you're pushing an insane amount of propellant into the combustion chamber, right? And that all that gas has to go somewhere. It's going to start accelerating it downwards. There's still some unburnt hydrogen here going on, but that's because the engine has yet to get up to flight pressure. Yeah, look at how quickly this happens. The purgers are still doing their thing. Now, in this split second between ignition and getting up to thrust, what the rocket engine is doing and what the Vulcan engine is doing inside of its combustion chamber is starting to build up pressure. It takes a second. It takes a second for the explosion to fill up that combustion chamber. Now, once again, we're scrubbing it through frame by frame, so this looks like it's taking forever, but it actually happened about that fast. See? This propulsion ignition is very, very cool. Coming up on relight here. Yeah, we're about 2 minutes out. Yeah, see? I'd say it's more like a welding torch. Well, if I were you, then you'd be me, and I'd use your body to give my explanation. You can't stop me no matter who you are. So what's happening here is the combustion chamber is building up. And now you can see that the flames are burning way hotter here because the color's changed. So that hydrogen's starting to burn real hot. Let's see if we can see it. Oh, there's a Mach disk. You can see the Mach disk forming right there, indicating the engine is getting up to throttle. What's happening here with this phenomenon here, right? This looks like a smiley face. The gases are coming through the throat, right? It looks like a funnel, right? They're coming through the throat of the nozzle, and they're going out and they're trying to expand, and they bounce off the inside of the nozzle and then come back in. And the Mach disk forms from those gases kind of collapsing in on itself because of atmospheric pressure. Basically, the gases coming out of the engine are trying to expand, and there's atmosphere in the way, so they collapse back in on each other. You can see the Mach disk forming right there. Now, you can see right there, what's happening right there is the atmosphere, the engine is not up to full power, and some of this atmosphere, the same exact phenomenon that I'm talking about, is trying to seep its way back in to the nozzle right there. That's what that phenomenon is right there. That's flow separation. That happens during ignition. Now, another cool thing to note is that look at the nozzle. Flow separation basically creates drag inside of the nozzle. That's really bad for it because then you start going through nozzle oscillations because you don't have uniform pressure pushing out on all edges of your nozzle. So if you look at the nozzle like this, you ideally want pressure to be pushing it out and the nozzle to slightly expand a little bit. In that split second where you get drag inside of this thing, the nozzle isn't like fully inflated, so to speak, and it starts wobbling around. Watch the edge of the engine. See it moving? See the whole thing's like. This is great footage here. I could look at this all day. And now you have, see right here, the last bit of flow separation happening inside of the nozzle is happening in this frame. We can't see it. It's probably on this side. But yeah. See how pronounced the Mach disk is now? That indicates the engine is pretty much up to snuff. We're good to go. And how you don't have any oscillations on your nozzle anymore. Now, what are these flames coming out the side? Purge flames. They're not purge flames. These are the exhausts from the pumps. The rocket engine has pumps on it, and those pumps are driven by a gas generator. So basically a jet engine that's driving an impeller. And they do have exhausts, and the exhausts come out the side. And that's what this, you're seeing some turbulence right there. That's what that is. It's the exhaust it's the exhaust from the gas generators interacting with the exhaust from the main rocket. Okay, Ariane host is back.
nominal, as we heard also during the break. And soon coming up is the second boost, so the first re-ignition for the Vinci engine. And we were tracked by Lucknow in India. Hello, India. During the break, and are now
It is an open
getting
cycle,
close to the
Wolf, yes.
north coast of Australia, actually.
Indeed, and if anyone who's not familiar
rock
with
is over Borneo right now.
the information on the top of the screen, we've got on the left-hand side the trajectory. That's the planned trajectory, and the white cross is the actual position of the launch vehicle. And then on the right-hand side, you can see our altitude, 550 kilometers above our planet, heading to low Earth orbit. We've travelled nearly 19,000 kilometers if you were to drive
it's
draw a straight
awesome,
line
Alex.
across the Earth from the pad, and Vitesse is our speed, nearly 8 kilometers per second. So we've been coasting without the engine for about half an hour now, but that doesn't actually mean that nothing's happening on board, is it? Because we have a new addition, and you did mention it earlier for Ariane 6, right?
Yes, so you're right. At the moment, the Vinci engine is off. But when we are in coasting phase, the auxiliary propulsion unit, the APU, is actually running, and we heard the DDO saying that it's running nominally, which is very good news. And this piece of equipment is what makes Ariane 6 so versatile, as it is the key to the reignition capability of the Vinci engine, actually. What it does, it uses fuel of the two main tanks and can create a small thrust, a constant thrust, as it has two little thrusters mounted on the...
These guys look pretty happy, dudes.
So what does it actually do? We need to manage three things.
See, like I said, this right here with the knuckles,
the tank pressures.
that's okay.
Second thing is the tank
and
temperatures.
If somebody's smiling,
and we also need to look for the position and the
Should
quality
be coming
of
up
the
on
fuel.
ignition here.
And so to illustrate this last point, position of the fuel. The fuel on board, they actually, once we are in orbit, behave exactly like astronauts. They would be floating in space, so they would be floating all around. And this is not exactly what we want them to do, so we need them to stay close to the tank bottom to be able to guide them then towards the engine for reignition. It's a little bit like if you were preventing your champagne glass from spilling while you're running. So this is a bit the job that it actually
very important thing to be able to do.
Don't lose your champagne. So the APU actually creates a little bit of artificial gravity. And the second point I mentioned was about temperature. We need to avoid the propellant evaporating.
Artificial gravity.
Rocket, it heats up the tanks, and if the propellants then touch the tank walls...
Acquisition de la télémesure par la station de Norcia.
No.
So we have acquisition of New Norcia in Australia. Hello, Australia.
There we go.
The second job of the APU is actually the tank pressure management.
And this is the scheduled moment here for the switching on of the Vinci engine.
Deuxième allumage Vinci.
Wow. We have confirmation that
Vinci
has switched back on. That means the APU has also done its second job in repressurizing actually the tanks, which was what I was about to explain. Amazing, amazing.
Flame
so
out.
we could save a lot of helium actually on our upper stage.
Propulsion nominale.
Propulsion is nominal.
Yeah, we could save a lot of helium.
Inspection du moteur Vinci.
Very good. C'est magnifique.
Amazing. So that means that we are now in a circular orbit around the Earth at 577 kilometers.
Good job,
altitude.
guys. Nice job.
So this is a very big moment and a very important moment. The Vinci engine has switched back on again and off again. And here are the teams. The quick look telemetry guys and girls who we saw earlier on the hill outside the...
L'orbite atteinte à la fin du deuxième boost Vinci est correcte.
Yes, everything is correct as expected after the second Vinci boost.
Good stuff.
Outside the Space Center, and they're getting the
He said everything is
and then
good.
Hearing all those confirmations there. So, gosh, this is a very, very exciting launch, isn't it, Tina? One of the features of Ariane 6 is the flexibility.
APU nominal.
Everything nominal.
Everything nominal.
Good.
It's mind blowing that we got here without any hiccups. This is a great achievement.
This is the first launch of this rocket.
It is indeed, and I was just saying one of the features of Ariane 6
and they just
is
tested
really
relighting the
having
engine.
the flexibility
Worked
if you
real
like,
good,
to deliver
actually.
any type of satellite to any type of orbit
578
with
at
this
735.
engine that can switch on and off.
So
what kind of missions will Ariane?
The rocket, looking at this track here and looking at the altitude, the rocket had an engine cut off here in a slightly eccentric orbit. Apogee, highest point in the orbit, was around 570 kilometers. Perigee was the lowest point in the orbit, was more or less around 130, 140 kilometers. and they basically coasted uphill, so to speak, to the highest point in the orbit, and then they refired the engine. Note that the altitude is not changing, and your altitude and velocity are not changing. If altitude and velocity are not changing, you're circular. It's a circularized orbit. These numbers aren't moving. So what they did was they put it into a slightly egg-shaped orbit, went around to the highest point in this egg-shaped orbit, fired the engine again, and made that egg a circle at 579 kilometers. Yeah, they did that to test the relight on the engine, make sure the engine can relight, make sure that their propulsion systems, obviously the propulsion system works, making sure their auxiliary power unit for tank ullage and propellant settling is working correctly. Yeah, that was a big deal. That relight was a critical part of this mission. And now you're playing with house money. Now deploy the satellites. Yeah, exactly, Flykin. Relighting a rocket engine in space is difficult. I think I explained pretty well. Lighting an engine down here is tough. Doing that in a vacuum is very difficult. That's really hard to do. So the APU is doing what an ullage motor would do, Black Ops. Yes, it's settling propellants. Yeah, settling propellants and working, providing tank ullage and working like an ullage motor. Then why keep them on for 30 minutes and not just 15 seconds before relight for settling fuel? My guess Black Ops is that the APU will help. That APU is, because it's providing tank ullage as well, will not just be for prop settling. It's there to keep the tanks pressurized, and keeping the tanks pressurized can help mitigate boil off for long duration missions. That's my guess. I'm pretty sure that's what's going on. The physics don't change, you know.
To see how they work.
Also providing power. That's probably important.
On the right-hand side there. Let's find out a little bit about them now, a bit more about them.
All right, guys. It's 4 o'clock, guys. I wanted to make sure we got through relight, but this is where I'm going to leave you with coverage for now. I have to take my dog to the vet. The first time we're going to the vet with Titan. So, in case you're wondering, I got a dog about 2 weeks ago, and we have to take him to the vet today just to check up to make sure that he is happy in his new environment. So, bring lots of treats. Oh, of course. He doesn't know what the vet is. This dog is very Forrest Gumpy. That's an adjective. Anyway, so I'm gonna go do that, but I will be back. I'll be back. We have Fallout 4. I'm gonna say that we'll do Fallout probably around 6. So that's 2 hours from now. Might be on a little bit earlier, but I'll leave a nominal buffer just in case. Nominal buffer. How long will the vet thing take? EJ, wait. Nope. Barak, sorry, I can't hear you. Yep. No, sorry. No, you're going into a tunnel. Sorry, I'm sorry. I can't hear you. I'm going into a tunnel. I gotta go. Call me back later. This is the United States calling. He keeps hanging up, but it's a man answering. All right, guys, seriously. I'll see you guys. Thank you for watching. I do appreciate it. I hope you enjoyed the coverage. I'll see you guys in about 2 hours.